Givat Shmuel is a small city wedged between Ramat Gan, Bnei Brak, and Petah Tikva, just east of Tel Aviv. It has transformed dramatically over the past 15 years, from a quiet, somewhat sleepy residential area into one of the most sought-after locations for young families in the Gush Dan region, with prices to match. The city's appeal comes from its combination of factors that are hard to find together elsewhere. It's genuinely close to Tel Aviv, with the Bar Ilan Junction and Ayalon Highway providing quick access to central Tel Aviv in 15 to 20 minutes under normal traffic conditions. The train station at the nearby University Station connects to the national rail network. Yet despite this proximity, Givat Shmuel has maintained a distinct small-town character, with a strong sense of community, excellent schools, and a family-oriented atmosphere that feels different from the urban intensity of Tel Aviv or even Ramat Gan. The Anglo community in Givat Shmuel has grown substantially as the city has developed. It's not as large or organized as Ra'anana's Anglo community, but it's significant and active. There are dedicated Facebook groups and WhatsApp chats for English speakers in the city, and the small geographic size means that Anglos tend to encounter each other regularly at parks, schools, and synagogues. The community skews toward young families with children, many of whom are professionals working in Tel Aviv's tech sector or other industries. There are also some older Anglos who've been in the city longer, but the dominant demographic is families in their 30s and 40s with young children. The religious character of Givat Shmuel is predominantly Dati Leumi, national religious, which distinguishes it from more secular areas like Givatayim or the mixed character of larger cities. This isn't exclusive, and there are secular residents as well, but the Dati Leumi presence is strong and shapes much of the community's character. Synagogues tend toward modern Orthodox, and Shabbat has a noticeable presence in the city, with reduced traffic and activity. For Anglo families who are observant or traditional, this environment is often appealing. For those who are secular, it's worth understanding that the community's center of gravity is religious, even if there's room for everyone. The synagogue options include several that have significant Anglo membership. Some congregations have developed reputations for being Anglo-friendly, with rabbis who speak English and communities that welcome English speakers. Shabbat morning services become social occasions where Anglo families connect, and many friendships develop through shul. The religious community infrastructure includes shiurim, women's learning groups, and youth programming, some of which operates in English or is accessible to English speakers. Housing in Givat Shmuel has become expensive, reflecting the city's desirability. What was once an affordable alternative to Tel Aviv has seen prices climb dramatically as demand has outpaced supply. New high-rise towers have gone up throughout the city, changing its skyline and increasing density, but prices have risen rather than fallen. Purchasing an apartment suitable for a family can easily cost 3 million shekels or more, with newer or larger units going higher. Rentals for family-sized apartments typically run 7,000 to 10,000 shekels or more per month. These prices put Givat Shmuel in a similar range to Ra'anana and make it inaccessible to many families who might otherwise be drawn to it. The neighborhoods within Givat Shmuel are relatively compact given the city's small size. The older areas have lower-rise buildings and a more established feel, while newer developments feature towers with modern amenities. Some Anglo families prefer the older areas for their character and sense of community, while others choose new buildings for the construction quality and facilities. The area near the Shivtei Yisrael synagogue has a concentration of Anglo families, and certain buildings have developed reputations as Anglo-heavy, which can be appealing for those seeking English-speaking neighbors. Schools in Givat Shmuel are generally well-regarded, which is one of the city's major draws for families. The Mamlakti Dati, state religious schools, have good reputations, and the relatively small size of the city means that schools feel more personal and manageable than in larger cities. Anglo children attend Hebrew language schools and typically integrate well with the language immersion approach that's standard throughout Israel. Parents often supplement with English tutoring to maintain literacy. The community includes experienced Anglo families who can advise newcomers on navigating the school system, and recommendations pass through the Anglo networks. Ghanem follow a similar pattern, with a range of options including municipal and private. Anglo families often seek out Ghanem that have experience with immigrant children or that come recommended by other Anglos. The community's tight-knit nature means that information about which Ghanem work well circulates quickly. For families with teenagers, the high school situation requires more consideration. Givat Shmuel doesn't have high schools within the city, so teenagers attend schools in nearby cities. This is common throughout Israel, where high school draws from wider geographic areas, but it's worth understanding when planning. Some Anglo families send children to high schools in other communities that have English-speaking students or particular programs. Employment for Anglos in Givat Shmuel typically means working elsewhere, as the city itself has limited job opportunities. The proximity to Tel Aviv and the tech hubs of Herzliya and Ramat HaChayal makes commuting practical. Many Anglo residents work in high tech, with the concentration of tech companies within reasonable driving or transit distance. Some work from home, which has become more common, and the city's residential character makes it a pleasant place to be based. The combination of central location and quiet residential environment appeals to professionals who want access to Tel Aviv's job market without living in the city. The physical environment of Givat Shmuel is urban, but green for its density. Parks provide outdoor space for families, and the small size means that amenities are walkable for most residents. Shopping is available locally for basics, with larger malls in nearby Ramat Gan and Petah Tikva for more extensive needs. The city doesn't have a significant restaurant or nightlife scene, functioning more as a residential community than an entertainment destination. For cultural activities, Tel Aviv is close enough to access easily. The social life for Anglos revolves heavily around the religious community, children's activities, and neighborhood connections. Shabbat is a major social occasion, with families hosting each other and walking to shul together. The parks fill with Anglo families on Shabbat afternoons. Friendships develop through school, shul, and the natural encounters that happen in a small community. Some Anglos find this intimacy wonderful, describing a sense of belonging and support that's hard to find elsewhere. Others find it claustrophobic, noting that privacy is limited and social expectations can feel intense. The Dati Leumi character deserves more discussion because it shapes daily life. Shabbat is observed widely, which means restaurants and businesses close, and there's an expectation of reduced activity. Kashrut is standard rather than exceptional. The school system teaches religious studies, and there's an assumption of baseline religious practice. For observant families, this alignment between home and community is valuable and avoids the friction that can arise in more secular environments. For families who are traditional but not strictly observant, it generally works fine. For secular families, the fit may be less comfortable, though some secular Anglos live happily in Givat Shmuel and simply navigate the religious aspects. The city borders Bnei Brak, which is an ultra-Orthodox city with a very different character. This proximity is mostly unremarkable in daily life, but it does mean that some nearby areas have an ultra-Orthodox character rather than the Dati Leumi feel of Givat Shmuel itself. Understanding the geography helps when looking at specific neighborhoods and apartments. Healthcare is accessible through Kupot Holim clinics in the city and the proximity to major hospitals in the Tel Aviv area. Sheba Medical Center at Tel HaShomer is nearby and is one of Israel's leading hospitals. Finding English-speaking doctors requires some effort, but is manageable given the Anglo community's ability to share recommendations. The community has developed some Anglo-specific infrastructure over the years. There are occasional shurim in English, social events organized through the Facebook groups and WhatsApp chats, and informal networks that help newcomers get oriented. It's not as comprehensive as Ra'anana's Anglo infrastructure, but for a city this size, it's substantial. The tight-knit nature means that new families can get connected relatively quickly if they're proactive about reaching out. For Anglos considering Givat Shmuel, the decision often comes down to religious fit and budget. If you're observant or traditional, Want a family-oriented community with strong schools? Can afford the prices? And want proximity to Tel Aviv? Givat Shmuel is worth serious consideration. If you're secular and would be uncomfortable in a Dadi Leomi environment, the fit may not work. If the prices are beyond your budget, looking at less expensive options makes sense even if Givat Shmuel would otherwise appeal. The community's growth has changed its character over the years. Longtime residents sometimes note that the city has become denser, more expensive, and somewhat different from the intimate community it once was. High-rise construction has altered the skyline and increased population. Traffic has worsened. But for families arriving now, these changes are simply the current reality, and the community remains welcoming and functional. Visiting before making decisions is advisable, as with any location. Spending Shabbat in the community, meeting families, seeing the schools and parks, and getting a sense of daily life all help. The Facebook groups can connect you with current residents who are often happy to meet prospective newcomers and share their experiences.